The unregistered threat. The patrol. The bridge of the Kethmoran patrol ship Stellar Dominion hummed with its usual mechanical precision. Captain Zaravek stood before the main display, her forearms crossed behind her back, as she watched the endless void of Sector 12. The Dominion was conducting routine patrols along the outer rim of the Galactic Empire's territory, a task that had become increasingly monotonous over the past decade. "Captain," called out Navigator Thrix, his crystalline features catching the blue light of his console. "We're picking up an anomaly on long-range sensors." Zara's secondary eyes focused on the tactical display while her primary pair remained fixed on the starfield ahead. The Kethmoran had evolved perfect multi-directional vision over millions of years, making them ideal ship commanders. "Specify the nature of this anomaly." Navigator. "Unknown vessel, Captain. No transponder signal. No registration in the Imperial database. It's approximately 40,000 kilometers off our starboard bow and closing." The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. In the 300 years since the Galactic Empire had established dominance over this sector of the galaxy, unregistered vessels had become virtually extinct. Every ship, from the smallest transport to the mightiest dreadnought, carried Imperial identification codes. "Sensor analysis," Zara inquired, her voice maintaining the calm authority that had earned her command of the Dominion at the remarkably young age of 67 standard years. Chief Science Officer Krell, a towering Vorthak with deep purple skin and enhanced cybernetic implants, manipulated his controls with practiced efficiency. "Captain, the readings are peculiar. The vessel appears to be constructed from primitive materials, primarily iron and carbon composites. However, the energy signature is unlike anything in our databases." Zara's tertiary arms began tapping against her sides, a nervous habit she'd developed during her academy years. "Primitive materials with advanced energy output. That's contradictory." "Indeed, Captain. The power readings suggest propulsion and weapons systems that rival our own, despite the apparently crude construction." The mysterious vessel continued its approach, neither accelerating nor decelerating. It moved with the steady, inexorable pace of something that had absolutely no fear of what lay ahead. "Hail them," Zara commanded. Standard Imperial greeting protocol. Communications Officer Lux, whose species had developed natural electromagnetic sensitivity, pressed her elongated fingers to her temple and concentrated. "Channel open, Captain. Broadcasting on all known frequencies. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Zaravek of the Imperial patrol ship Stellar Dominion. You are operating in restricted Galactic Empire space without proper identification. State your origin, destination, and purpose immediately." The response came not in the polished, translated speech of the Empire's universal communication system, but in raw, unfiltered audio that seemed to carry emotional weight in every syllable. "Imperial vessel, this is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Reclamation Fleet. You are in violation of territorial boundaries established by the Terran Collective. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The bridge erupted in stunned silence. Zara felt her blood pressure spike as the implications of what she'd just heard sank in. "Terran," she whispered. "That's impossible." Krell's cybernetic eye whirred as it processed the communication. "Captain, linguistic analysis confirms the transmission originated from a human vocal pattern. However, according to Imperial records, humanity was declared extinct following the Great Purge of 2387. The Great Purge was 137 years ago," Zara stated, her voice carrying the weight of historical certainty. "We monitored their home system for decades afterward. No human vessels, no human communications, no human colonies. They were wiped out." "Captain," Fricks interrupted, his voice tight with concern. "The vessel has altered course. It's now moving directly toward us." On the main display, the alien ship resolved into clearer detail as it approached. What they saw defied every principle of advanced starship design. The vessel looked like it had been assembled from salvaged components, with asymmetrical plating, exposed conduits, and what appeared to be jury-rigged weapon mounts. Yet despite its crude appearance, it moved with the fluid grace of a predator. "Weapon status?" Zara asked, though part of her hoped she wouldn't need to use them. "All systems operational, Captain. Plasma cannons charged and ready. Shields at maximum power." The human voice crackled through the comm system again, but this time it carried a tone that made Zora's skin crawl with its quiet confidence. "Captain Vex, I strongly advise against any aggressive action. You have no idea what you're dealing with." "I'm dealing with a ghost," Zara replied, opening the channel. "Humanity is extinct. Whoever you are, whatever you are, you're not human." A laugh echoed through the bridge, not the harsh, artificial sound of most species' amusement, but something warm and organic and utterly alien to Zora's experience. "Extinction is a relative term, Captain. We prefer to think of it as evolution." The demonstration. The Terran vessel suddenly stopped, hanging motionless in space exactly 3 kilometers from the stellar dominion. At this distance, Zora could make out details that made her increasingly uncomfortable. The ship's hull was scarred and pitted, as if it had been through countless battles, but those scars seemed to form patterns, deliberate markings that spoke of purpose rather than random damage. "Captain," Krell reported, his voice unusually strained, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the vessel's primary weapons array. Shields to maximum. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But the energy discharge didn't come toward them. Instead, a brilliant beam of coherent light lanced out from the Terran vessel toward a nearby asteroid roughly the size of a small moon. The beam struck the asteroid's surface and simply erased it. Not destroyed, not shattered, but completely eliminated, leaving nothing but empty space where tons of rock and metal had existed moments before. The demonstration lasted exactly 3 seconds. When it ended, the asteroid was gone, and the Terran vessel returned to its previous power levels, as if nothing had happened. "Molecular disintegration," Krell whispered, his cybernetic implants flickering as they tried to process the impossible energy readings. "Captain, that weapon didn't just destroy the asteroid. It broke it down at the atomic level and scattered the component particles across several light-years of space." Zara felt something she hadn't experienced since her first combat mission as a junior officer. Pure, primal fear. "How is that possible?" "It shouldn't be," Krell replied. "The energy requirements alone would necessitate the output of a small star. That ship is no larger than a heavy cruiser, yet it just demonstrated firepower that exceeds our most advanced dreadnoughts." The human voice returned, and this time Zora could hear something in it that made her blood run cold. Not anger, not hatred, but disappointment. "Captain Vex, that was a demonstration of restraint. We could have targeted your ship instead of empty rock." "What do you want?" Zara asked, proud that her voice remained steady despite the terror clawing at her thoughts. "We want you to deliver a message to your empire. Tell them that the children of Earth remember. Tell them that we know what was done to our world, to our people, to our future. Tell them that extinction taught us patience, and patience taught us power." The Terran vessel began to move again, but this time it wasn't approaching. It was circling the stellar dominion like a predator evaluating its prey. As it moved, Zora could see additional details that made her increasingly convinced that humanity had indeed survived their supposed extinction. The ship's hull bore markings that were unmistakably human in origin, symbols that combined geometric precision with organic curves, text in what appeared to be multiple human languages, and most disturbing of all, what looked like tally marks etched into the armor plating. "Captain," Lux reported, her electromagnetic sensitivity allowing her to detect subtle changes in the Terran vessel's output, "I'm picking up multiple life signs aboard their ship. The neural patterns are complex, more complex than anything I've encountered." "How many?" Zora asked. "Difficult to determine. The readings suggest a crew of perhaps 50 individuals, but Captain..." Lux paused, her expression troubled. "The neural activity patterns are unlike anything in our databases. These aren't just human minds. They're human minds that have been enhanced. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. Enhanced humans. Humanity had been declared extinct, not because they were weak, but because they were deemed too dangerous to allow to survive. The Great Purge had been sold to the galaxy as a mercy killing, putting down a species that was destroying itself through constant warfare and environmental devastation. But the truth, known only to the highest levels of Imperial command, was far different. Humanity hadn't been purged because they were failures. They had been purged because they were evolving too quickly, advancing too rapidly, becoming too powerful for the established galactic order to contain. "Commander Vasquez," Zara said, opening the channel again, "what happened to Earth? Our records indicate total planetary destruction." "Your records are incomplete, Captain. Earth was wounded, perhaps mortally, but planets are harder to kill than your empire believed. We adapted. We survived. We learned. And we remembered." The Terran vessel completed its circle around the stellar dominion and moved away, but not before transmitting one final message that would haunt Zora's dreams for years to come. "Captain Vex, you seem like a reasonable being. When you report this encounter to your superiors, tell them that Commander Elena Vasquez sends her regards to Grand Admiral Thekmor. Tell him that we remember what he did to the colony ships fleeing Earth. Tell him that we remember the children who died in the void because he ordered their destruction rather than allowing them to find refuge." Zara's blood turned to ice. Grand Admiral Thekmor had died 20 years ago, but his classified actions during the Great Purge were known only to a handful of individuals in the Imperial hierarchy. The fact that these humans knew about the colony ships, knew about the specific orders that had led to their destruction, meant that they had been watching, learning, and planning for over a century. "Tell him," the human voice continued, "that the debts of the dead are inherited by the living. Tell him that we're coming home." The Terran vessel accelerated away from the stellar dominion at impossible speed, vanishing into the darkness between stars in a matter of seconds. But the message had been delivered, and Zara knew that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. As she stared at the empty space where the mysterious ship had been, Zara realized that the Galactic Empire was about to face its greatest challenge. Not from another established power, not from rebels or separatists, but from a species that had supposedly been extinct for over a century and had spent that time becoming something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The children of Earth had returned, and they had not forgotten. The revelation. Emergency protocols. The Imperial Command Center on Nexus Prime buzzed with unprecedented activity. Grand Admiral Kethvar stood before the central holographic display, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber as he reviewed the report from Captain Vex for the 5th time. Around him, the Empire's most senior military commanders, intelligence analysts, and xenobiologists worked frantically to understand the implications of what had been discovered in Sector 12. "The vessel's energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered," reported Chief Analyst Vextar, her tentacles manipulating multiple data streams simultaneously. "The power output suggests technology that's at least 50 years ahead of our current capabilities, yet the construction materials appear to be centuries behind." Admiral Kethvar's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Explain how a supposedly extinct species has developed technology that surpasses our own." "Sir, if we examine the historical records of human technological development, we find a species that advanced from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. Their rate of innovation was unprecedented in galactic history." The Admiral's 4 eyes focused on different displays, showing archived footage of human space exploration, their early colonies, and the final days before the Great Purge. They were eliminated because they were chaotic, destructive, and refused to accept Imperial guidance. "With respect, Admiral," interjected Dr. Quilseth, the Empire's leading xenobiologist, "the official records may not tell the complete story. I've been reviewing classified files from the Great Purge, and I've discovered some disturbing inconsistencies." The chamber fell silent. Questioning official imperial history was tantamount to treason, but the current crisis demanded uncomfortable truths. "Continue," Admiral Cathvar commanded, though his tone carried a warning. The humans weren't just advancing technologically, sir. They were evolving biologically as well. Their exposure to various stellar environments, their genetic experimentation, their integration with artificial intelligence systems, they were becoming something new, something that didn't fit into the Empire's established order. Dr. Quilseth activated a holographic display showing human genetic structures. "Look at these samples from the final years before the Purge. Increased neural capacity, enhanced reflexes, improved radiation resistance, extended lifespans. They weren't just humans anymore, Admiral. They were becoming something else." The implications hung heavy in the chamber. The Galactic Empire had been built on the principle of controlled, predictable development. Each species had its place, its role, its limitations, but humanity had refused to accept limitations. The Terran vessel that Captain Vex encountered, Dr. Quilseth continued, likely represents the culmination of over a century of uncontrolled human evolution. They've had time to perfect technologies we've never even imagined. Admiral Cathvar's communication console chimed with an urgent message. "Sir, we're receiving reports from patrol fleets across the Outer Rim. 7 more encounters with unidentified vessels matching the description of the Terran ship." The display updated to show a 3-dimensional map of Imperial space. Red markers appeared at various points along the outer territories, each representing a confirmed sighting of human vessels. "They're not randomly positioned," observed Strategic Analyst Mordek, his cybernetic eye tracing patterns in the data. "These positions form a perimeter around our core systems. It's a reconnaissance formation." Admiral Cathvar felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a crushing burden. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Unknown, sir. Our encounters have been brief, and the human vessels appear to be using some form of advanced stealth technology. Conservative estimates suggest at least 20 vessels, but the actual number could be much higher." The chamber's main screen activated, displaying the familiar symbol of the Imperial Emergency Council. Chancellor Vexthera's image appeared, her ancient features etched with concern. "Admiral Cathvar, the Council has reviewed your reports. We are implementing Emergency Protocol 7. All Outer Rim patrols are to be reinforced, and the Third Fleet is being recalled from the Andorian sector. Chancellor, with respect, I don't believe military force is the appropriate response to this situation." The Chancellor's 4 eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The humans have demonstrated technological superiority that makes direct confrontation inadvisable. Their vessel destroyed an asteroid the size of a small moon with a single shot. Our standard battle doctrine assumes technological parity or superiority. We have neither." "Then what do you propose, Admiral?" "Communication, Chancellor. We need to understand what they want, what they're planning, and whether there's a peaceful resolution to this crisis." The Chancellor's expression suggested she found the Admiral's proposal distasteful. "The Empire does not negotiate with extinct species. Admiral, if these humans have indeed survived, they are by definition outlaws who exist in violation of Imperial law. Chancellor, they've had over a century to prepare for this return. They've chosen to reveal themselves now for a reason. We need to understand that reason before we commit to a course of action that could lead to catastrophic consequences." First Contact Protocol. 3 days after the encounter with the Terran vessel, Admiral Cathvar made a decision that would define the remainder of his career. Rather than waiting for the humans to make their next move, he authorized a diplomatic mission to the coordinates where Captain Vex had last detected the mysterious ship. The Imperial diplomatic vessel Harmony's Voice was equipped with the most advanced communication systems available, along with a complement of the Empire's most skilled negotiators. Leading the mission was Ambassador Xendera, whose species possessed natural empathic abilities that made them ideal for first contact situations. "Admiral," Ambassador Xendera reported from the bridge of the Harmony's Voice, "we've arrived at the coordinates, but our sensors show no sign of the Terran vessel. Maintain position, Ambassador. If they're watching us, they'll respond when they're ready." They didn't have to wait long. The space around the Harmony's voice shimmered like a heat mirage, and suddenly the Terran vessel materialized less than a kilometer away. The human stealth technology was far more advanced than Imperial intelligence had estimated. "Impressive," Admiral Kethvar murmured from his position in the command center. They were there the entire time. The human voice that had spoken to Captain Vex crackled through the communication system. "Imperial vessel, this is Commander Elena Vasquez. I'm surprised to see a diplomatic ship rather than a battle fleet." Ambassador Xendera, trained in the subtle art of interspecies communication, responded with carefully measured words. "Commander Vasquez, I am Ambassador Xendera of the Galactic Empire. We come seeking understanding, not conflict." "Understanding," the human replied, and there was something in her voice that made the ambassador's empathic abilities flare with warning. "An interesting concept, Ambassador. Tell me, what exactly do you wish to understand?" "We wish to understand how humanity survived the events of 2387, what your intentions are regarding Imperial space, and whether a peaceful coexistence is possible." The response was immediate and devastating. "Peaceful coexistence, Ambassador. Your empire murdered 6 billion human beings. You destroyed our colonies, hunted our refugee ships, and reduced our homeworld to a barely habitable wasteland. What makes you think we're interested in peaceful coexistence?" Ambassador Xendera's empathic abilities allowed her to feel the emotional weight behind the human's words. The pain, the anger, the carefully controlled rage that had been building for over a century. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered. "Commander, the events of 2387 were regrettable, but they occurred over a century ago. Surely there must be some way to move forward." "Regrettable," Commander Vasquez repeated, and the temperature of her voice dropped by several degrees. "Ambassador, would you like to know what we've been doing for the past century while you've been congratulating yourselves on your regrettable actions?" The Terran vessel began transmitting data, but it wasn't in any format the Imperial computers could immediately recognize. As the translation protocols worked to decode the information, images began to appear on the Harmony's Voice's main display. What they saw was Earth, but not the dead world Imperial records described. The planet was scared, certainly, with vast areas of devastation visible from orbit, but it was alive. Cities stretched across the surface, their architecture unlike anything in the known galaxy. Massive orbital installations hung in space around the planet, connected by streams of energy that pulsed like arteries. "This is Earth today, Ambassador. We've spent 137 years rebuilding what your empire destroyed. But we didn't just rebuild. We improved. We evolved. We became something your empire couldn't have imagined." The images shifted to show the planet's surface. Humans moved through the cities, but they weren't the same humans who had been purged over a century ago. They were taller, more graceful, with eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge that spoke of lifespans far exceeding anything in Imperial records. "We integrated with our artificial intelligence systems, Ambassador. We enhanced our biological capabilities. We learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level. We became a post-scarcity civilization, while your empire was still counting the cost of our extermination." Ambassador Xendera felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of the bridge. "What do you want from us, Commander?" "Justice, Ambassador. The beings responsible for the Great Purge are still alive. They still hold positions of power in your empire. They still believe they made the right choice when they condemned our species to extinction." The display showed names, faces, and current positions of Imperial officials. The accuracy of the information was terrifying, suggesting that the humans had been monitoring Imperial activities far more closely than anyone had realized. "We want Grand Admiral Thekmore's successor to stand trial for war crimes. We want reparations for the worlds we lost. We want acknowledgement of what was done to us, and we want guarantees that it will never happen again." And if we refuse? Ambassador Xandera asked, though she already knew the answer. Then we'll take what we're owed, Ambassador. We've had over a century to prepare for this moment. We know your fleet positions, your defense capabilities, your supply lines, your communications protocols. We know everything about your empire because we've been living in the shadows of your systems for decades. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just been hiding and recovering. They had been infiltrating, studying, and preparing for this moment with patience that spoke of careful planning and absolute determination. How many of you survived? Ambassador Xandera asked quietly. Enough, Commander Vasquez replied. We learned the value of patience, Ambassador. We learned to think in terms of centuries rather than decades. We learned that revenge is a dish best served when your enemy has forgotten they ever wronged you. The transmission ended, leaving the crew of the Harmony's voice staring at blank screens. But the message was clear. Humanity had returned, and they had not forgotten what had been done to them. Admiral Kethvar, watching from the command center, realized that the Galactic Empire was facing the greatest crisis in its 300-year history. The children of Earth had indeed come home, and they had brought with them the accumulated wisdom and power of over a century of forced evolution. The question was no longer whether humanity could challenge the Empire. The question was whether the Empire could survive the encounter with what humanity had become. As reports continued to flow in from across Imperial space, showing more human vessels appearing at strategic points throughout the outer territories, Admiral Kethvar began to understand that the galaxy was about to change forever. The age of unchallenged Imperial dominance was ending, and the age of humanity's return had begun.